But we'll see if that stays true here. So here we go. Round 1 of Legacy. We're finally here. Standards in the books. Jerry Thompson won. Now we're on to Legacy. I'm Gavin Verhey, joined here by Big Head Joe.
Hello.
And at the Star City Games Open Series here in Dallas-Fort Worth. And here we go. It's Legacy portion time. On the left, Nick Spagnolo coming off of a fresh top 8 in the in standard portion of the event. He played Cobblade, similar to the eventual champion Jerry Thompson. Not same list. You know, I think Nick was only blue-white, but still a great player, made top 8, pretty happy to be here, and shuffling up. I don't really know what's in his deck. We're going to find out pretty soon. Maybe a band deck, maybe something else. We're not totally sure. On the right, Mike Norris, a relative of Chuck Norris, and he's been playing Legacy in this tournament, and it's going to be cool to see what's going on. I don't really have any background information on him, but I'm guessing he's probably a local guy, an up-and-comer, and it's going to be cool to see what he does in this event.
Chuck Norris.
Oh, yeah, there we are. Yeah. The side view. I love it. I love it, Rashad. I'm so glad we figured this out.
Son of Chuck Norris, second-degree black belt, out of Fort Worth, Texas. Frequenter of the White Elephant Saloon, which was used in Walker, Texas Ranger, at the Stockyards in Fort Worth. Known as CDs in the show, even though I don't think I've ever actually seen the show. I've been there. International crime fighter.
Looks like we're back to a longer delay right now. Let's see if we can get that fixed up for you guys. Some responses on Twitter coming into the Squadron Hawk and Cube question. Seems to be kind of divided. Some people say that belongs only in certain kinds of cubes. Power cubes would have Squadron Hawk. Just like Mr. Ravane should have access to it. Anyway, we're going to finally have some action here. Nick Spagnolo leads on a Tundra, the blue-white dual land. And let's see, looking at his hand, I see Islands. I think I see a green card. Wait, is that Dark Depths? I think it is. That's exciting. All right, so Mike Norris, looks like we got Dredge. This can only be one deck. Cephalid Coliseum, Lion's Eye Diamond, Unmask. Wow. There's some dredging happening here. So Mike unmasks Nick Spagnolo, is going to take off Nick's facade here and pluck a card from his hand. So here's what we got. Okay, it was Academy Ruins. So we have Island Academy Ruins, Chromox, Counterspell, Swords to Plowshares, and Thirst for Knowledge. And Mike takes the Swords to Plowshares because that's really the only card that's going to be able to disrupt his dredge plan here.
Mm-hmm.
I think I see, is that Pact of Negation in Mike's hand? He definitely has a Golgari Thug. I'm not totally sure on what's going on. All right, so Breakthrough. Breakthrough is just so insane. So what it says is for 1 mana, you draw 4 cards, or for blue X, you draw 4 cards and then discard all but X cards. So if you pay it for 1, you just draw 4 cards and discard your hand, which is pretty reasonable in a dredge deck. If you pay it for 2, you get to keep 1 card even. And so he activates Lion's Eye Diamond in response for 3 mana, discards Golgari Thug, dredges, and picks the Thug up. And then he's just forced to draw for the rest of the breakthroughs because he did not find another dredge card. So then he discards his hands, and nothing happens. So Mike doesn't have a lot going on now, but if he just finds another land, he can activate that Cephalid Coliseum. Cephalid Coliseum, for those who don't know, is taps for blue, and you take a damage. It's the Barbarian Ring, the blue Barbarian Ring. It taps for blue, and you take a damage, and you can pay a blue and sacrifice it to draw 3 cards, then discard 3 cards.
Mm-hmm.
So I played. So I played Dredge. I played Dredge in Legacy before, and I know how the deck works quite a bit. It's so powerful. I remember I played it at one of the Magic Online Open Series events that I qualified for, the Legacy one, and it was like I started playing at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was going so late, and it was like my girlfriend's birthday the next day, and I really didn't want to like be playing it for so long. But I was like, well, I have this Dredge deck, I might as well play. And at some point, I was like, 2-0 or 3-0 or 4-0, and I just wanted to lose. I actively wanted to lose so I couldn't play in the tournament. And the deck was too good. It just kept winning. And, you know, you just have these insane draws where if they just don't have the hate for you, you just annihilate them, and it's not even ridiculously close. And if you know how to play the deck, that's even better, because there's a lot of really intricate things that the deck can do, and you have to know how to play it well to do them. So,
yeah, my friend is a strong advocate of the dredge deck. My buddy Noyan, who certainly will be joining me this weekend on the coverage.
all right, so all right. Looking through that gigantic graveyard over there.
It's definitely. I haven't seen a dredge player keep their graveyard just stacked in a pile like that in a while. Like usually it's all spread out, so that, you know, it kind of knows what's there at all times. But this guy looks like he's going to just be digging through that pile every time, or at least maybe he knows what he wants, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of dredge players keep their graveyards fanned out, or you know, put the relevant cards in one area. You have to be careful to not clump them up. Obviously, shuffling them well afterwards will help, but
Sure.
that's not the style used here. We also have we do have the graveyard in front of the deck style, however.
Right.
So what you saw happen there, basically, Mike flashed back some deep analysis, dredged a bunch of cards. Doesn't have a ton of action going on right now, but especially if he draws another land and gets that Cephalid Coliseum active, things are going to get pretty rough for Nick Spagnolo. Nick's board right now is Island, Tundra, Academy, Ruins. The thing about dredge is you will win most of your game ones, just because few decks have good answers to you.
Right.
After sideboarding, though, things get a lot more rough, and you know, Nick, I'm sure, probably has Tormod's Crypt or Relic of Progenitus or something like that in his sideboard to help combat. Looking at Mike's hand right now, it looks like he's got a bunch of dredge cards and Icarid. So he just can't do a lot right now, but he's looking for a land so he can activate that Coliseum. And when that Coliseum gets active, things are going to get really, really rough.
It's a thirst for knowledge from Nick.
Let's see, it looks like he's going to discard
Tropical Island.
Tropical Island. I can't quite make out what the other card is. Yeah, Dredge is such an insane deck. Max McCall, who's a Seattle native, has played a ton of Dredge, wrote several articles on Dredge, and he was like the only Dredge player in the area, and people sideboarded cards just for him in Legacy, just because like he played it so much. And he's won tons of games purely through game actions and playing cards from his graveyard. He goes like turn 1, discard Golgari Grave Troll, Dredge, just never play a land, doesn't need to, and his only game actions that he takes are like returning Icarids and playing Narcomoebas. He's won games without doing anything but attacking. No lands. He's just no casting spells, just discarding, returning things, triggering abilities. No spells cast, no lands played. Pretty insane.
Wow.
So let's see, counter spell from Spagnolo there. But Mike did find a second Cephalid Coliseum, so not only can he activate one now, but if he draws another land, he can activate the other. And it looks like Mike's deck is going to get dumped into his graveyard pretty quickly here. Spagnolo's hand. I thought I saw Explore, but I don't think that's what it is. I know I saw another land. Let's see what Spagnolo's going for here. Chromox out there. Okay, so there's Jason the Mind Sculptor. And I'm probably going to brainstorm.
Seems about right.
Yep. And he brainstorms. Now it's possible, we don't have Nick's deck list in front of us yet, but it's possible Nick has like a Trinket Mage for Tormod's Crypt or some kind of main deck graveyard hate. Yeah, okay, so there's looks like Flooded Strand in Nick's hand. Flicking that around with a Chromox. And Nick once again wants to look over Mike Norris' side, or not sideboard, graveyard. And the thing is that's interesting is Mike Norris might not be stacking his graveyard out, but it's actually a hindrance to Nick because he has to look through his graveyard every time he wants to know something.
Right.
And it's not giving Nick any information. It's not like broadcasting, like what he's going to do. So Nick plays Chrome Mox and Imprints Thirst for Knowledge, representing a counterspell. And it looks like indeed he's holding on to counterspell Swords of Plowshares. And so Mike's gonna dredge 4 here. He flips Cabal Therapy, Stinkweed Imp, Lion's Eye Diamond, and Golgari Thug. And okay, now things are getting rough. Found a Narcomoeba, found some Bridge from Belows, found some more Cabal Therapies. I think that was an Icarid we just saw. Another Narcomoeba. Is that Sutured Ghoul? I can't quite make out what that black card is.
Maybe. I'll have to look it up.
I mean, I doubt it's Sutured Ghoul. Oh, it looks like it should be an Icarid, but it's not. I'm not quite sure. Is that Zombie Infestation?
Huh.
Maybe it is just another Icarid. It just looked really weird from the angle I was looking at it.
I would love if it was Zombie Infestation.
But I don't know. Zombie Infestation isn't normally played in Dredge. I think it's probably just Icarid.
Icarid's there on top of his.
So anyway, he discards 3 cards. Discards Icarid, Golgari Grave Troll, and another Golgari Grave Troll, and there are 2 Narcomoebas out. And now he's gonna go to his draw step. He did this in his upkeep, so he'd have the Grave Troll in his graveyard for his draw step, and 6 more cards go. Another Therapy, and so now Mike can start doing some pretty ridiculous things. He can Cabal Therapy, get tokens from Bridge from Below, strip Nick's hand away, get some tokens. I don't think he's got a Dread Return yet, though, but he has Icarid. Okay, so he's reading whatever that card is, and so it's not an Icarid. We don't know what it is, though. When we get deck lists, we'll try and find out what it is for you. Rashad's going to run over there and find out right now. He's just so curious.
I want to see Rashad's hand reach.
Yeah. And there's the hand of Rashad, as it were. It's an active Rashad. All right. And Rashad's coming back. He's going to report to us with what the card is. Hypnotist? Is this Sadistic Hypnotist? Okay, that's what I thought it was when I saw it. And I'm like, there's no way this is Sadistic Hypnotist. But that's what it is. So, Sadistic Hypnotist is a card from Odyssey. All I remember is, like, you can discard a card.
I got it. All
right.
It's a, wow. Oh, I remember that card.
Okay, this is kind of sweet, actually.
Nice. Okay, so it's a 2/2 minion for 2 black and 3. It's an uncommon from Odyssey. Sacrifice a creature. Target player discards 2 cards from his or her hand. Play this ability only anytime you can play a sorcery. So that's not too bad. So, I mean, basically what his strategy is with that is you're going to hit a bunch of Narcomoebas, you're going to get some zombie tokens, whatever. When you're going off, you just dread return your Sadistic Hypnotist, sack some stuff to clear their hand out. It's kind of like extra Cabal Therapies, but it also just reduces their hand. Taps, or not taps, rather, but any Storm deck is traditionally a bad matchup for Dredge. Yeah.
And if you can quickly dread return to Sadistic Hypnotist, even if you don't have the kill that turn, you can strip their hand so they can't kill you on their next turn, which seems pretty good. So, let's see. So there's next reading Bridge from Below. Now the tricky little Future Sight rare Bridge from Below, it's very strange. It's an enchantment, but it does nothing in play. So it only works in your graveyard. It says whenever a non-token creature goes into your graveyard, you get a 2/2 zombie token. And whenever a creature goes into an opponent's graveyard, you exile Bridge from Below from your graveyard. So the way the Dredge deck works, for those who've maybe never seen something crazy as this before, is you dump cards in your graveyard really fast. You hit Narcomoeba. Narcomoeba is a Future Sight card that says when it's milled, it comes into play. You can sacrifice those to Cabal Therapies, which is a more known card. You can sacrifice all this to Dread Return to bring back cards like Flamekin Zealot, I guess Sadistic Hypnotist, Blazing Archon, Angel of Despair. You can also You can just grind them out with Icarids over time. You can bring back Icarid every single turn, or multiple Icarids, which is a 3/1 for 4 with haste, and you sacrifice it at the end of the turn. But you can remove a black creature card from your graveyard in your upkeep to put it into play. And then, of course, when that dies at the end of the turn, it triggers your Bridge from Belows, and you can sacrifice them to your Cabal therapies. So the Dredge deck is actually pretty robust and has a lot of ways to deal with cards in your opponent's hand. And here's a Trinket Mage from Nick Spagnolo. And I'm sure he probably has like a Tormod's Crypt or Relic of Progenitus somewhere. That looks like Engineered Explosives that he shuffled to the front, though. So it looks like he's flipping between 2 Engineered Explosives. He's like, I don't know which one I want. This one's got a crimp in the corner. But really, I think he's probably trying to represent that he was making a choice there. Yeah. Which you have no, if he doesn't have a main deck piece of Graveyard Hate, like, you want to, like, make him think that he's thinking about it at least.
Of course.
So Nick gets Explosives. And now we can play the Explosives for 0 and then kill all the zombie tokens. And Nick does have his Academy Ruin, so we can reset that Explosives every single turn, which is worth noting. Yep, so here comes Explosives. And he just cracks it right away, killing his own Mox and wiping Mike's board of zombie tokens. And I'm sure now Nick is also looking for a way to deal with his own Trinket Mage, because if his Trinket Mage dies, it removes all of Mike Norris's Bridge from Belows from the game.
Right.
Now, Mike's going to return some Icarids here, and those are going to trigger those bridges. I don't know if Mike's going to want to attack, though, because if Trinket Mage blocks, it'll get rid of Mike's bridges. Mike does get to control the triggers from Bridge from Below, so we can stack them in a favorable way for him, but Dredge has been a deck I've always enjoyed playing. I played it in Standard. I played it in Extended at different points in time. I had the Dredge deck built the day Narcomoeba was spoiled. And worked on it relentlessly. Played a lot of Dredge, and the deck is just so ridiculously powerful. You're doing things no other deck does. Just these broken, ridiculous, flip your deck into your graveyard things. It's not like you're playing Magic. It's like you're playing this weird sub-game that isn't Magic at all. It's just completely absurd.
It really is a strange deck in a way.
Yeah, I mean, when you teach a new player how to play, and then you're like, all right, let me tell you about a deck. It flips your deck into your graveyard, brings cards back, you sacrifice them to make your opponent discard cards out of their hand to bring creatures of your own back. You're getting tokens from this wonky card from Future Sight. There's this card that you flip that when it comes into play, it just sounds so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Alright, so he swords the Plowshares, 1 Icarid, making sure that one's gone forever. But 1 Icarid still sticks. I'm sure Mike is probably looking for another land so we can activate that Cephalid Coliseum. But he just uses the sacrifices Icarid to flashback, Cabal Therapy. And he's going to get a Bridge from Below token. 2 tokens. There are 2 bridges now.
For people who are asking on Twitter, yes. Jerry did win with a 61 card deck.
Yeah, I mean, 61 cards. I mean, I won a Pro Tour in the hands of Gabriel Nassif. Jerry Thompson just won with it. I mean, it gets bashed a lot, but it has won some tournaments. Maybe 61 is a new 60. Seems unlikely, but once again, it goes back to the sideboard thing. Would you sideboard up to 61 sometimes if you had the opportunity?
See, I've always advocated for 66 cards in 0 card sideboard.
Sure?
No, not sure. No, as a joke, but maybe.
I mean, that's the next step to the J-Way special. So, Nick uses Academy Ruins to put Engineered Explosives back on top of his library. And those explosives that he gets back every turn will be able to deal with all those zombie tokens that Mike has been getting. But the zombies aren't going anywhere thanks to Icarid. Every turn he'll be able to Bridge from Below. So Mike peeks at Mike's top card, trying to keep him off a land for Cephalid Coliseum, and also just upping Jason's loyalty.
Somebody had a tiny piece of the Power Rangers theme song on their phone, and now I can't get it out of my head. It's really annoying. All
right, so here comes 2 Icarids back from the graveyard. and he has to exile a black creature card to do that with Ichorid. So he gets rid of a Stinkweed Imp and a Putrid Imp. And those Ichorids will make Mike a bunch more zombies this turn, but Engineering Explosives threatens to make them not do as much. Now it's kind of tricky because if Mike goes to attack with his 2 Ichorids and his 3 zombie tokens, Nick has to decide if he wants to engineer explosives now and prevent this 6 damage, or after the Ichorids die and kill all the zombie tokens.
Hey, what's up? Do you want to step in, or do you want to step out for a minute, or no? I'll go ahead and let you.
So we've got Drew Levin entering the booth. Drew, did you win your first round?
Yeah, I did. That bye guy's a real sucker.
Pretty nice having one bye.
Yeah, it really is.
You're only at 1 right now.
Yeah.
Still working on your second bye.
Yeah, I'm at 43 going into today's tournament.
And you need 50?
50, yeah.
Well, maybe today could be the day.
Yeah, here's hoping.
So we've got Nick Spagnolo with looks to be kind of a band control deck, a deck that I know he's worked on a little bit, versus Mike Norris with what looks to be a fairly traditional Dredge deck. He has a Sadistic Hypnotist, which isn't a card I've seen a lot of in Dredge, but I figured it's probably good against the Storm decks. You can target yourself to pull Dredge cards out of your hand.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's basically a really good Dredge Return target actually against control.
Right.
Because you just... It's another way to just pull all of the relevant ways to interact out of their hand.
Yep. And
then you just have a bunch of dudes and you attack them.
Yep, that's exactly what you want to do. So it looks like Mike's Dread Returning Golgari Grave Troll here.
Yeah, that one always demands those hordes.
But, I mean, Nick also has a Jace
active. Oh, so he can just bounce it.
Yeah, assuming Jace doesn't die here somehow.
Is that... It's an Ichorid, is it?
Yep.
No, or is that a Hypnotist?
No, it's an Ichorid. So right now on Mike's board, there are 4 zombie tokens from Bridge from Below, an Ichorid that came into play this turn, and a Golgari Grave Troll that was just Dread returned. And Nick's got a Trinket Mage, Engineering Explosives on 0 to kill the zombies, and a Jace on 5 counters. Also relevant, he has Academy Ruins to keep resetting his explosives every turn. The Grave Troll is an 8/8 creature. So Mike's going to get some more tokens.
The Jace is on 5?
Jace is on 5. Nick's Fate Sealed.
Okay.
Mike has been kind of digging for a second land so he can activate that Cephalid Coliseum.
Yeah, that would just be really bad for Nick.
Yeah.
So is he Dread returning another one? What's going on here?
That's what it looks like, yeah. I think we're Dread returning again because he just sacrificed an Ichorid and a couple zombies.
Okay, so he's... Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
And figuring out what the course of action is. So you're playing Team America today, right?
I am.
Okay. Did you make any interesting modifications? I know Jerry was talking earlier about switching up the Team America deck a little bit. You're still playing a pretty stock list of what we talked about yesterday for the most part?
Yeah. He wanted to cut the hymns, cut the stifles, cut the tombstalkers, cut the snuffouts and predicts in the Sylvan Library, and add Confidant, 2 Terravor, more lands, Jace, Spell Snare, Inquisition, and sort of make it a lower curve deck that doesn't require its graveyard as much and has a steadier stream of card advantage through Dark Confidant. So ways to actually get ahead with a 2-mana investment as opposed to an instant speed way to get slightly ahead with Predict.
And you don't like his changes?
I think that they're interesting. I haven't tested them, so I can't really speak to that, but I think that Tombstalker is just a very good threat in the format right now. I think it's well positioned. Yeah. And I've never really been a huge fan of Dark Confidant, but that's more of a personal thing than anything else. I seem to run a little below expectation with that.
Jerry did mention that Confidant's a little dangerous in that deck because you have a lot of 5s you can flip up on top of the monitor.
I mean, like Dark Confidant in a Force of Will deck and Dark Confidant without Sensei's Divining Top are 2 things that I really would be skittish of playing with, just because your opponent has so many backdoor outs to just do nothing and kill you
Right.
that I'd rather make them work for it.
And so meanwhile, Nick uses explosives to blow up all those zombie tokens. Passes the turn back, or Mike then passes the turn back to Nick. Nick brings back engineering explosives with his Academy ruins, plays it back out, and Mike is looking to bring back some Icarus.
And Jace is his one of the grave trolls, right?
Jace is one of the grave trolls. Nick is reading the grave troll, and at one point on the last turn, Nick counted Mike's deck. You might be trying to play the waiting game here in some senses. We'll see. We'll see if that plays out.
There are some points where a blue deck can actually run the dredge deck out of resources, out of black cards for Icarids, out of Narcomoebas, out of just ways to kill them before they eventually flip their entire deck.
Right.
And Jace certainly helps with that. Although the fact that Nick doesn't have a top is a little disconcerting. So who are they going at?
It is unclear who they're attacking right now. But Trinket Mage is going to jump into one. He's been waiting for an opportunity to let that mage die and kill off all those bridge from belows.
Yeah.
And this is finally going to be it.
Block Grave Troll.
It depends on what they're... Yeah, it's got to be the Grave Troll, right? You don't want him to get all zombie tokens. I mean, you could block
right
Icarid depending on where it's going, but...
An interesting interaction here is that if Trinket Mage trades with Icarid, Mike controls all of the bridge triggers, and so can stack them so that he gets his tokens, and then the bridges are removed.
Right. Normally, things stack in app-nap order: active player, non-active player. So
so Nick could get to remove the bridges, but
right. But Mike controls all the bridge triggers because they're his card. So he's obviously going to stack it so he gets the tokens.
Right. I mean, there are people that just don't because they don't understand that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I lose my bridges, darn.
Yeah.
But if you plan on playing Dredge in a tournament, you should definitely know that, if your Icarid trades with something, if your Narcomoeba trades with something,
yeah,
get your bridge tokens.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, like I said, the Dredge deck, it has some busted draws that are easy, but it's surprisingly complex, a lot of the interactions. You have to play it a lot to really get to know it well, especially after sideboarding with all the graveyard hate that can come in. And this is a long, drawn-out game one we've had here. No hate on Nick's side, and players are just trying to figure out how they're going to attack each other. Mike hasn't had the best draw, but...
I mean, yeah. The Dredge player's ability to control their draws is, pretty dependent on the top of their deck. Well, the top 6 cards of their deck. And so he's therapying himself for Golgari Thugs. So what's going to happen is he's going to, I assume, try and peel a second land, get those into play, and then flip Narcomoebas back on top and dredge them away.
I can definitely see that happening. I mean, second land is pretty important here, so we can activate that Coliseum, although I'm not sure how low Mike is on cards.
Wait, Nick just didn't block and went to 4. This is odd.
So Nick chose to take the damage. He chose to not block with his Trinket Mage. Interesting. I wonder why I didn't block there.
I mean, I guess he looked through his graveyard, saw no more black creatures, and therapying himself for Thugs really threw it off, and that's a Day of Judgment.
Now, Golgari Grave Troll can regenerate.
Right.
An oft-forgotten ability of the Grave Troll.
Right.
But only 1 mana means only 1 that can regenerate.
Is it 1 remove a counter regenerate?
It is 1 remove a counter regenerate.
So he's already used his Jace. I guess at this point it depends on whether or not Mike remembers that it has this ability, given that he hasn't opted to put counters on it and has just elected to, let Nick know that it is, an 8/8 or a 10/10.
Yeah, there are no counters on that Grave Troll, which is a little disconcerting, but I guess if they're going to get as big as they can in Dredge, he probably has it written off to the side somewhere.
Attack you.
Attack with Trinket Mage. What you going to do about it? He just lays it right over the Grave Trolls. Mike's like, whatever, take the damage, and then Day of Judgment. And he figures that out. Who can regenerate? And that's game. And Nick tried hard with that one, but the Grave Trolls from Mike eventually took it down.
Yeah.
So we talked to Jerry, and he said that you guys had a discussion last night about polluted deltas and brainstorms and force of wills and wastelands.
Right. The new hot conversation,
right,
being most influential card in the format.
Most influential card in the format. It's been a hot topic all weekend. You and AJ and Jerry were at odds about this yesterday. Do you agree with them now, or have you still holding your stance that Force of Will is the most defining card in Legacy? Because Jerry and AJ both think it's Brainstorm. Alex Bertoncini thinks it's Wasteland. Where are we at right now?
I still think it's Force of Will. I think that AJ and Jerry are correct in that Brainstorm revolutionizes blue decks and allows them to play more specialized cards, and certainly makes them better. But I think that Force of Will, as a card that allows the format to start interaction on turn 0, is crucial for defining the character of the format and sort of sets the power level for what Wizards can really print as being Legacy playable, since they can say, oh, well, the spell is really powerful, but they have Force of Will.
Right.
And so what would Legacy look, too degenerate if you could cast Ad Nauseam on turn 1 on the play and just kill them and they have nothing to say about it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've always felt like Force of Will was the glue that held the format together. I mean, Jerry's argument is fair that there are plenty of decks that beat combo decks that don't have Force of Will in them. But on the flip side, if the combo decks didn't have to worry about Force, they could just work on being the fastest decks possible.
Right.
And right now, you can't just go all in on turn 1 Ad Nauseam, because if your opponent has a Force of Will, that's never going to work out. You just play Goblin Charbelcher if you're going to do that, right?
Right. I mean, but you could just play 0-land Goblin Charbelcher, and just try and kill them on turn 1 all the time, and that they can't actually stop you.
Right. So we don't have deck lists here. Do you know much about Nick's deck?
I actually don't. So I'm intrigued by this. But besides, I'm playing in the tournament, so I don't think you're allowed to tell me anything.
No, I mean, it's true. I couldn't tell you what is in the deck list if I had it in front of me.
Right. I wouldn't be allowed to look at it. Darn.
But I was curious if you knew what he might be sideboarding in or anything of that accord.
He looks a little nervous. I put him on 0 to 4 hate cards. With a fair number of incidentals.
Right.
So
and he's got Trinket Mage, but he didn't have any main deck hate cards.
He probably has Trinket Mage for a solo Crypt or a solo Relic.
Yeah.
And then Academy Ruins. I mean, since he has Academy Ruins, I'd be more likely to put him on Crypt. And the fact that he has Trinket Mage probably in multiples means that his plan is probably to just try and mise the one of into the one of. Except one of them is tutorable.
Right.
So, Academy Ruins is just his best land here.
On the other hand, traditional hate cards have this Dredge deck side where I can tell you some of those. There's Ancient Grudge is a card Mike might have access to make just force Nick to blow a Crypt before he wants to blow one up.
I mean, even Chain of Vapor is actually fine against the non-Gaddock Teague cards. Nick might bring in Gaddock Teague. I don't know if he's playing green. I didn't quite see that. I saw red, white, and blue. Okay. So he's playing 4 colors. He could really have just about anything. I think that, again, Crypt is most likely. Mike would probably be bringing in, Needles if he has them, Grudges if he doesn't, and Chain of Vapors, because you can just chain the Crypt at end of turn, make them activate it for no value, untap into, discard multiple Dredgers, and, get as many resources into play as possible. Therapy them a bunch and leave them with very little. Or if they pick up their Crypt, then you just therapy it out of their hand.
You can also do some bluffing elements with it. There's a lot of different things you can do with your Crypt. Could also see potentially Pithy Needle from Mike Norris as a way to shut off explosives, Crypt, Academy Ruins.
Right.
Those are some traditionally played Dredge cards. So, yeah, I mean, that's what Mike has. I don't know what Nick has, but we'll find out shortly. They're just drew their opening hands for Game 2, and here we go. For those of you just joining us, I'm Gavin Verhey here with Drew Levin, guest commentating on Round 1 of the Star City Games Open Series Legacy portion. We saw Jerry Thompson take down the standard portion earlier with his blue-white-black Cobblade deck, no Day of Judgments.
61 card special.
61 cards, got some Tumble Magnets. And now here in Legacy, Nick Spagnolo playing what looks to be some kind of 4-color control deck. We haven't seen Counterbalance yet, so not really sure exactly what's going on. We've seen Trinket Mage, Swords of Plowshares, all kinds of crazy stuff. Mike Norris, on the other hand, playing a Dredge deck. He's opted to use Lion's Eye Diamonds and Deep Analysis to fuel his Dredge deck, which a lot of Dredge players have kind of shied away from.
Yeah,
So,
I agree with that approach to Dredge. I think that if you let the games go longer, if you play more mana-producing lands and cards like Tireless Tribe, you open yourself up to just getting beat by all of the normal decks. Just Wild Nacatl into Kasali Pride Mage type of stuff. If you have Land LED Breakthrough, then Zoo's just never getting you.
speaking of, you mentioned Jerry's 61 cards. We talked about this earlier. What do you think would change if players could sideboard not on a 1-for-1 basis in Constructed? Do you think people would ever board up to 61 cards for matchups? Would that be a thing? Like, could you consider overboarding for a matchup and boarding in more cards for it? And Volcanic Island for Nick.
I think that a far more common example would be underboarding. So you board 5 cards in and you board 15 out.
Well, you still have to keep your deck at 60 cards.
Oh, but you can overboard.
You can overboard, yeah, just like limited.
Okay.
City Brass from Mike Norris, Chromox on Nick Spagnolo's side.
I think that people would do it, but it probably wouldn't be as correct nearly as much as they want it to be.
I agree. I can agree with that. So City Brass from Mike Norris, we're going to see a Cabal Therapy.
Targeting who?
Unclear who it's targeting, but we'll find out very shortly, I imagine. That looks like that Chromox. Is that a Baneslayer Angel that's imprinting? I'm pretty sure it is. I see the Mythic Rare Emma.
Wait, so he therapies Nick.
Okay, so Therapy's Nick.
Nick drops a hand of...
Yeah, he named Force of Will.
Okay, so Nick drops a hand of Shackles, Trinket Mage, and what else?
Is that 2 Trinket Mages? I can't quite make it out.
Well, he peels Misty Rainforest off the top.
It's a good one to have.
Yeah?
So we can actually cast the spells. All right, so he goes
and there's
Trinket
Mage,
Mage, and now he's going to get his Graveyard Hate card for sure.
Right, so is this going to be his Tormod script? He looks excited about this one.
He looks happy. He found his Trinket Mage.
Oh, that's Tormod script.
Yep, that is the F&M Tormod script.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I like that therapy unless you have, a very good plan.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible Mike needed to therapy himself there. Okay, so he does have Tireless Tribe in his deck, so he has some of the slower cards for that approach too. We saw LED and Deep Analysis in the first game, but
yeah, in general, you have to cut like LEDs and breakthroughs and deep analyses for game 2, just because. Oh, and breakthroughs, like probably mostly the breakthroughs, a few deep analyses, probably less with the LEDs, just because you have to actually hold your hate cards.
Right.
So you can't just go, 1 mana, pitch my hand. Oh, you have Crypt. Cool. Okay, let's go to game 3.
Yeah, and you also just don't want to flip over, 3/4 of your deck and just get crypted out of the game.
Right. So what's going to go on here is there's going to be a bit of a dance between Mike's Tireless Tribe and Nick's Tormod's Crypt, because Nick has to figure out how much value he can afford to get out of Tormod's Crypt while giving up value with every turn that Mike can play Magic.
Correct. Plus, Mike has the potential to hit Ancient Grudge at some point, which will force Nick to burn that Tormod script.
Right.
And we have a second Trinket Mage, so that's what it was from Nick. And
Engineered Explosives.
Okay, so it just does the one hate
card.
No,
I had the good read. It was Engineered Explosives, Tormod's Crypt, and Academy Ruins.
Yep. Now he just has to find that Academy Ruins.
But he doesn't have a Sensei's Divining Top, which is what I would have gotten there if he had one.
Yeah. So I guess he clearly does not have Counterbalance in his deck.
Right. Doesn't have Counterbalance, but also, Top is playable without Counterbalance.
Right. Oh, absolutely. It's played plenty before Counterbalance was ever a thing.
Mike's best draw here would have been a land. So that he could play one of the Narcomoebas in his hand and flashback Cabal Therapy.
Yeah. Seems like also just having a Dredge card would be good for Mike right now.
He's going to happily flashback the Putrid Imp to get... Oh, really? No? He's just going to, get his discard outlets colded by Engineered Explosives?
Huh? So
It seems iffy.
He just ran both of them into explosives.
I mean, like, I would have flashbacked therapy with Imp to get the explosives and protect my Tireless Tribe.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that explosives is probably going to trade for the Imp anyway. I would have also made that play.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, but, like, Tireless Tribe blocking.
Yeah, he only has like 2 maneuvers. Like, he's gonna have
Or a little bit of debate going on the side here as which creature he should have therapied with
I'm not sure.
for blocking or attacking. Imp is threatening, Tireless Tribe can block, but either way, we feel like he should have probably sacrificed one of them.
Yeah.
All right, and Nick plays Jace the Mind Sculptor, Fate Sealing the top of Mike's deck, and then ships it to the bottom.
So there's your dredge card.
Most likely, yeah.
One of your 11.
And
Is
Mike-
that Cabal Therapy that he peels?
I don't think that's
Oh,
Cabal
is that
Therapy.
Icarid? It's a black card.
It's either Icarid or Sadistic Hypnotist.
Not a card that you want.
And whatever it is, yeah, not what exactly he was hoping for.
So head judge Kevin Binswanger, another expert on the format, offered a bit of insight saying that, you know, if Mike were to flashback Cabal Therapy, oh, there's the Chain of Vapor.
Okay, so he chains the Crypt. Clearly
No, he chains Jace.
chains Jace. Okay, interesting.
Interesting lines. I don't quite know where this is going, but I'll be intrigued. And he's discarded a bridge from below, so he discards Narcomoeba. Here's my graveyard. Would you like to activate Crypt?
Like,
I have all these cards in my graveyard. Are you sure?
doesn't. All right, so he gets a bridge from below
right.
token.
Flashbacks with Tireless Tribe. Nick says, "Hold on. Okay, so let's the bridge trigger resolve. Right. This is the game of baiting that Mike needs to do. You know, just get zombies, grind it out.
Right.
And there's the engineered explosives. So this is. I don't know if I really like Nick's play here of not eating away both of those discard outlets.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like Mike mind tricked him in a sense. He's like, I'll play a second discard outlet and make you or attempt to do explosives with it. But Nick said he's like, well, he wants me to do explosives both of his discard outlets. This can't be right, can it?
Right. I mean, like, it's just a very. It's what level are you on,
Yeah,
right?
he overthought it a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
And
Shackles
so
your zombie.
Shackles a zombie.
And get in there. This is the 2-2 game. I love the 2-2 game.
Yeah, so I mean, good old gray ogres. So yeah, I mean, the thing that's interesting is that crypt, like, a lot of players are like, oh, you have to save it for the combo, you have to save it for the combo, whatever. But the dredge deck can just grind you out by making 2/2s, and a lot of times you'll just win with the crypt active on the table or something.
Yeah. I also don't know if I like taking the 2/2 over the Putrid Imp, just because, you know, if you take the Putrid Imp and then attack and he blocks with the zombie, you get to cold his bridge anyway.
Right.
And now he doesn't have a discard outlet because
Right.
you sacrificed one and then you take the other, so he has to have a third.
Yeah, the big thing for me was getting rid of that discard outlet. That seems
So,
really
like,
important.
I don't know if I like Nick's lines here, but they seem to be working out for him. So he keeps the zombie.
All right, so he plays out Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Is that Day of Judgment as the last card in his hand? I think he flashed that one.
I think
Bounce
it's
your
just the
Narcomoeba.
land. Yeah, it's just the land, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And so the board state, for those of you who are a little confused on what's going on, it's Vidalcan Shackles, 2 Secret Mages, and a Shackled Zombie token.
And a Tormod's Crypt.
A Tormod's Crypt and a Jace on Nick's side. Mike has a lone Putrid Imp, but of course what's in play doesn't necessarily matter as much as what's in his graveyard.
He has a bridge from below in his
2
graveyard.
bridges, I believe.
Oh, 2 bridges.
No, just 1 bridge maybe.
Okay, so Bridge, Narcomoeba, Chain of Vapor,
Let's see, we're gonna see.
Tireless Tribe, Cabal Therapy. He just discarded an Icarid.
Okay, and now he gets crypted. So those bridges do not trigger. Now see, Nick made a slight misplay there. He can wait till the triggers for bridge are on the stack, and then crypt him, getting rid of that Putrid Imp for future Icarid activations.
Oh, did he not do that?
No,
That's some glare.
I believe the Putrid Imp is in a graveyard right
Oh, yeah,
now.
no, you definitely wait for those.
Very slight misplay, but one nonetheless.
Oh, and now, of course, peels the Ancient Grudge just in time, right?
Yeah, just in time. Well, I can still kill that Vidalcan Shackles, I guess.
No. Go to attacks and kill your Shackles. Take 2 damage. Go to 2.
So I can jump block.
It doesn't
It doesn't even matter.
It doesn't matter. You're dead.
Yeah. That's it. Nick found the cards he needed. He's able to pull this one out.
It does, and Nick finally realizes, even through force willing it, that it just doesn't matter.
Players, there is a limited number of Don't Daze Me Bro, and I tap that sleeves. Going over to the sales counter right now. If you're interested, come on over.
All right, so a bunch of people on Twitter are asking, why Day of Judgment over Wrath of God Legacy? Obviously, Wrath doesn't allow regeneration. The obvious answer in me would be that, well, there's two different options. First option, Nick Spagnolo potentially has a creature with regeneration in his deck. The second one is he's got Gifts Ungiven somewhere in his 75.
Yeah, I mean, it's about it. Card availability could be one.
But Wrath of God is a pretty commonly had card.
Yeah,
I think that's something that
and
Nick
also
would
Nick
probably
Spagnolo
have.
is from a group of players that plays very, very foiled out decks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
So-
to be fair, they are promo digits. It's like,
Right,
they're,
yeah.
they're pretty sweet.
But like,
right?
there's promo Wrath of Gods that look just as sweet.
They actually look even better, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah, I
This
don't know.
just in, finding wastelands is hard work.
And that's Big Head Joe. There for updates from the trade floor. It turns out people don't want to give away Wastelands.
Just don't have them.
Or just don't have them.
I got
or
one.
are playing them.
I got one from Alex, so that's the only one I've got so far. Had to give up a little bit to get it, but it was worth
Yeah.
it. One down.
Yeah. 3 more to go.
Player shuffling out for Game 3. Mike Norris going to be on the play this time. Being on the play with the Dredge deck is going to be a dangerous combination. If Nick doesn't have a Source of Plowshares immediately,
Force of Will.
or Force of Will. Once again, Force of Will, interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, what happens when they just, like, play a discard outlet on one? Oh, so we don't have Force of Will. Cool, okay, discard a bunch of cards, go. Like, are you main decking Tormod's Crypt? Like, that's cool. I guess you can do that, but like, oh no, I'll name Pithing Needle. Oh, I'll play Pithing Needle and name your Future Cool. And we'll dredge it back and we'll cast Breakthrough. Oh, so you have to have Daze or Force of Will, but we don't have Force of Will? Okay, cool. Like, it's such a crucial card. Like, and by the way, for those of you who play blue decks against Dredge, always force the turn 1 discard out. I don't care if it's Careful Study, Breakthrough, Putrid Imp, or Tireless Tribe, you run the Force of Will.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you have to, like, forcing the turn 1 out, that's everything they ever do, right? Because, you know, like, you think you can say for the Dread return,
they aren't
but
casting spells.
Right.
I mean, the rest of their deck is replacing their draws, triggering cards from their graveyard, and by the time they put a Dread return on the stack, that Force of Will isn't in your hand anymore. They put a Cabal Therapy on the stack first. Like, the only real value that you get out of your Force of Will is buying either a turn or the game with a counter spell on their discard outlet.
So going into Game 3 here, and so it looks like Nick has the one Tormod's Crypt, and he fortunately found it last game with Trinket Mage, and that's kind of a major hope for him. We'll see what it does for him this game. Of course, a major problem is just, like, Mike hasn't really had a good draw so far. If he just gets a good draw this game, everything could go
Very, very south for Nick.
So let's see. All right, so Mike leads on City of Brass. There's the turn 1 discard outlet. Does Nick have the force? Nope. And he just lets it stick. Discard Stinkweed M turn 1, and here it starts. Looks like Mike might finally have the good draw that he's looking for.
Yeah, so there's the
Legacy
imp into
open
imp.
players, that is time in the round. Active
Oh,
player,
boy.
finish your turn.
This is
Does
either
not
a
finish
draw
your
or
turn.
this is a loss for
If you need
Nick.
assistance or having time extension, please call for a judge.
So Nick just didn't have the force of will then.
Yeah, once again, Nick, they have a 10-minute time extension, so
okay.
time was just called, but they have 10 more minutes. So they, he once again didn't have the force will for the terminal accelerator and discards Stinkweed Amp, and Mike finally might have a good draw here, and this is going to be really rough for Nick.
Therapy, you.
Yep.
So you just named Swords to Plowshares here, right? Like, you didn't get your discard outlet forced, so...
Probably has swords. I mean, unless you want to get really greedy and name Trinket Mage, I think
Oh, that's so greedy.
Like, you're going to see what's in his hand anyway, right? So
Like, swords just seems like the best hit. Like, what hand can you keep if you don't have a force of will in your hand? Like, it's got to be one with, like, swords and interaction, right? And step swords, your guy.
All right, so he swords away the Putrid.
So if Nick has Mox into Trinket Mage, then Mike might just be out of it. Oh, he drew Force of Will. That's so good. So, nope, never mind. Force of Will, not so good. Hits another Dredger. And that's 2 Sadistic Hypnotists and a Golgari Grave Troll.
Are we sure that was 2 Hypnotists and not
Pretty
one
sure.
Icarid? They look very similar in the art, so it's hard to identify them. All right, and there's Putrid Imp. Oh, that Talbot's definitely a Hypnotist. There's some hypnosis happening there. I think that the other one's Icarid, though.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
So a Hypnotist and an Icarid.
Yeah, that sounds about right. All right, and Nick forces
Forces
the
the
Putrid
Imp.
Imp. So now he's got the Force.
Right. Peeled the Force. Nick's just on, like, mono lands here, right?
Another interesting point, a lot of people were asking about Day of Judgment versus Wrath of God in the Twitter feed.
What did Nick pitch to Force of Will?
I can't quite see it, it's off camera. Is that Thirst for Knowledge?
I sure hope it wasn't Trinket Mage.
I don't think I see Trinket Mage in his hand anymore.
I mean, was Trinket Mage in his hand?
I do not think there's currently a Trinket Mage in Nick's hand.
Right, no, there isn't. Because he would have just shotgunned it and colded Mike's graveyard instantly.
Right. So I'm pretty sure he, if he had one, he used the Force. Otherwise, he used something else. I don't think it was Trinket Mage. I think it might have been Thirst for Knowledge, but I can't quite see it. It's off to the side. Anyway, somebody brought up the point about Day of Judgment versus Wrath of God that in Legacy, it makes sense to differentiate them if you have 2 or more because of Meddling Maging for Ball Therapy and similar naming cards, which also makes sense. So there's a couple reasons why he could have cast Day of Judgment in the first game. For those of you who didn't see, Nick drew Day of Judgment in the first game, and it would have been really great for him at wiping his opponent's board, except his opponent's cards were Golgari Grave Trolls, which have the ability to regenerate.
Yeah.
So... let's see. All right, now it looks like Nick just drew Trinket Mage. I think he thirsted there, and now he's got a Trinket Mage in his hand.
Just main phase Thirst? Or is that end step Thirst?
Well, Cabal Therapy just happened, so it must have been I think it might have been in response to...
And he doesn't name Trinket Mage or Swords to Plowshares?
Interesting.
I'm confused by this one. Yeah, Flashback Therapy, get your Mage.
What did he name on the first Cabal Therapy? We were just informed Tormod's Crypt was the first card he named. He just named Tormod's Crypt in the dark. So we were just informed that they had a time extension, but that extension just ran out. So they're playing for real now.
So this is turn 0?
That's what it sounds like from what Rashad said. This is turn 0, Rashad? And here comes down Plains. And Mark's going to bring back turn 2. Okay. They're going to bring back an Icarid. Turn 4 now. All right. Change just like that.
I mean, so Nick Swords 1, doesn't die, and it's a draw. Yep, that's a draw.
Wow, and Nick takes a draw. Round 1. Not what you want to see, but
Not at all.
that's that. Takes a draw against Mike Norris. That game 1 just took far too long.
Yeah.